Hello and welcome to Pentalive from Pentalog, where we bring you information about the tools and techniques you need to survive and thrive in the world of COVID. I'm Peter Green in New York, and in this episode of our show DEFCON 19, we'll be speaking with Christophe Vanackère, who is the CEO of a company called Trace1, which does something really interesting. They help consumer goods companies manage the production of private label goods, particularly in the food sector, and they're actually a software service platform. When COVID hit, Trace1 was forced to do all their work remotely, even as much of their business relied on person-to-person relationships, including being in Paris, of course, long lunches and these kind of meetings with people. Christophe is going to talk to us about how they adapted and actually thrived from the change. And along with us will be Pentalog's CEO, Frédéric Lanier. We'll be right back after this brief musical interlude. Hi, Christophe. Thanks for joining us. Really a pleasure to have you with us here virtually. You're going to tell us today about how your SaaS company adapted to the entirely remote working of the COVID era and some lessons that other SaaS operators can draw from that. And as I said, with us, we have Fred Lanier, who is the founder of Pentalog. So let me just start, Christophe, with asking you just what exactly is it that Trace1 does? Explain this to our viewers here. And just before you go, one other thing to all our viewers and listeners here, if you have any questions for Christophe or Fred or anybody else, please put them in the chat next to the video, and our producer, Christelle Lezeau, will read them out when she gets them. Thanks. Christophe?
Thank you, Peter. Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you tonight. A few words about Trace1 first. Trace1 has been created in 2001. And has been founded and managed during 16 years by the creator of the company. And in 2016, the company has been acquired by a private equity called AG Capital in London. And I've started as a CEO about 3.5 years ago. So what is Trace1 doing? Basically, Trace1 is a software platform which helps these retailers and suppliers create new products. Let's assume we wish to create a product like a lemon yogurt. If we get into a retailer, he's going to have to create the whole specification of what he wants to be produced. A specification for a yogurt is having about 600 information to share, just for you to realize. And this document is going to be shared on a platform with all the suppliers, the manufacturers who are able to produce these yogurts. They're going to sign off this specification and then go and produce for the retailer, and then put the goods on the shelf, and then they will be distributed. So Trace1 has developed over years a specialty in the private label segment. And we know that the private label, like the Carrefour brands or the Tesco brands or the Sainsbury brands, is definitely their own brand, which they are more and more pushing. And we see that there is a big increase in consumptions on the private label, which is owning to the retailers. So Trace1 has developed a whole team in that. We have 200 people today, basically based in France, UK, US, Germany, and Spain. And we have 20,000 suppliers, manufacturers, which are connected on the platform. And the strength of the company is to be able to do this go between retailers and suppliers, what we call them today, brand owners. So that's in a nutshell what Trace1 does.
And you're also a marketplace, right, for all these suppliers to meet each other and meet the people who order.
Yeah, the first idea was to get them work together and collaborate, which is the essence of what we are doing. And then we realized that all these people are looking for new product, for innovation. So we created last year what we call a marketplace, where all brand creators can do some product requests on a market and on an ecosystem which is global today. And that gives the capacity to these brand owners, brand creators, to be very innovative. And we know that in the food industry, in the cosmetic, in the home goods, the innovation will make a difference. So that's really the way TraceOne has developed over years, and the way we serve now the companies.
So when COVID hit and France was shut down, which is where the bulk of your operations are based, and then other companies shut down, how long did it take you to go from working in an office and working in your classical way to working basically from home?
Yeah, it was very quick. It was very quick. It took us about 2 days. We suspected the French government would go for a lockdown, and we did that the week before because we have some suspicions, and we could feel that the people were scared to take the transportations and so on. So over 48 hours, we had people moving home with their big screen for R&D guys or for legal people and so on. We equipped a couple of additional people who were not completely equipped, and since then we have been working from home completely. And just to be transparent, today we are reopening the office in Paris and in Germany, just with a third of the capacity, but we start going back to the office step by step. But during more than 3 months, we all worked remotely. And to be honest, we learned a lot out of that experience.
And I'm curious, what were the elements that made that succeed? I'm particularly interested so that other people in similar lines of business can understand what you did to make this work. And what kind of infrastructure did you have in place? Had you done training along this? Was stuff on the cloud? And to what extent was, you work very often with the Agile framework. To what extent was that Agile framework or agility mindset a key to being able to make that quick jump?
So the first thing is 3 years ago when I joined into the company, I realized that R&D was agile, but not the rest of the company. And we managed to get this transformation go through months after months to make sure that we become agile on the whole company itself and globally in all the subsidiaries also. So all the company has been equipped with laptops and VPN and so on, so that we can really work from everywhere. We know that our customers are already dispatched a little bit everywhere in the countries, so there was already a necessity to be a kind of nomad. So the day we decided to go for that, we were ready. Of course, we had some training which has been dispatched by the IT department. Then we had some training from the HR department. And the last thing that we did is that about a year ago, we subscribed to LinkedIn Learning, which is a fantastic tool. And it's expensive, but it's really healthy for everyone. And when we were on LinkedIn Learning, we managed to select some e-learning courses just on how to work efficiently remotely. And I must say that the combination of the three has helped a lot. People realize that they could do a lot, because that was more the change management in the mindset of people, which was difficult. First, the pandemic was scary, and second, you have to work from home. So it was critical for us to give the right tools and training, because then you had to manage the home environment, which is another story. Yeah. But the success was really the fact that the whole team has managed to help in the change and train them and give them some tools to see how they could be efficient. For some people, it was very new, but so far it works very well.
So, Fred, this is your daily business, your daily bread and butter, being agile and moving to agile. Do you want to, maybe you can talk?
Just sharing, I was
the lessons from this. I think
it's true. I was smiling after.
Be very rewarding.
Yeah. I was smiling after what Christophe was saying, because I think it's very interesting, all those comments. I don't know, Christophe, if you noticed that, but it's for me as a CEO, I realized I thought myself and the company I'm managing as fully agile end to end, but going through a period like that where everyone is outside the office, it's crazy how we realized that we have to renounce to something, but it had been very natural at the end of the day. But you go from control to responsibility, and it's fantastic. I think it's a fantastic trip for a manager with his troops to see that, because being everyone in the same office, it just shows the culture of control that we've had, that companies have in general, and being all spread out of the office, all of us spread out of the office, it really shows how much we have switched to a culture of responsibility instead.
Yeah, I fully agree. It's a good one, because we realized that ownership accelerated a lot. And even at junior people who joined us recently, and it's probably their second job, they realize that they have to take in hand what they have to do. Otherwise, no one, they can't rely on people sitting next to them. So I agree, it's very true. And the next aspect is the fact that we're not going to continue to work fully remotely forever. But I think that everybody realized that's the balance between doing some workshops together, working, or having some leisure time together later is also very important. But when we need to work on a project, when we need to get things moving, then working from remote or remotely on a bit more alone, we are much more efficient. And at the end, we save a bit of time, because we are at home and there is a family, or there are some partners or friends around, so you have to get organized about that.
But anyway, it's going to change lots of things. I can add. We made a study. Very recently that we sent to people of the IT industry, and their answer is crystal clear. 84% of the people would like to go on with work from home over 50% of their time. 84 over 50% of their time. So it's completely clear. I guess the choice of the people after that, and this is why we have to. Companies have to improve a lot and switch a lot from this kind of culture of control to something which is more about agility and responsibility.
I was going to just make a small remark that clearly 84% of these people do not have very small children at home. Because 1 or 2 days a week at most, but to be really productive, I need to be away from them, or daycare has to come back. But more seriously, how has this, so your company was able to very quickly adapt to this because of the Agile mindset, you're thinking about these things all the time, but a lot of your clients are very traditional companies where the bulk of their business may be, people driving up to their stores and wandering the aisles with a shopping cart. How has this mindset change on your part helped them, and have you been able to help them become more agile in the way they work?
Yeah, the first thing is the shock for the companies, the shock for the colleagues, the shock for the business. And the first guys who have been impacted on their daily routine are salespeople, and salespeople are chasing people to get meetings, to talk, and this is the way where they have to meet, to talk, and get a hold of them. The first week when we were keeping on calling our usual customers, people were saying, look, I have no time for you guys. I'm seeking masks and hydroalcoholic gel for my clients. I have no time for Trace One. So the reaction of some salespeople was to say, okay, I fully understand. I'm not calling you for Trace One. I'm calling you to tell you how can I help you. And we decided, and that worked very well. 1 or 2 customers were surprised, saying, oh, how can you help me? I have no more time to do these and these actions on the specifications, for example, on the certification checkings, on my daily routine. I'm about to recruit, for example, some interim people during a couple of weeks just to help me do that because my priority are somewhere else now. So we offered to do it. We said, we can do that. We can recruit, train, and do the work. Instead of paying an interim company and spend all your time, pay us and we'll do that for you. And when we understood that it worked on one, then we went to the others, having the same posture to them, saying, how can we help you? And the good thing is that first it worked and customers were happily surprised that we could build up a team and build up an experience so quickly. After 3 months, they expanded the team, so they asked us to recruit more people to deliver more services and to project it until the end of the year. This service offering was not in our portfolio, and now it's going to be in our portfolio because we realize that it's a real support to the customers, and it is something that we can do faster than if they do it themselves, because It's not their specialty. So I would say that it has brought a lot of more proximity with the customers all of a sudden. And personally, I try to call the C-level of our customers and to have the same approach, from the operational standpoint, but also from the strategic, saying, can I help you? Is there any strategic change or shift that you would like to share with me, so that if I know it a bit ahead, then I could adjust even my own strategy or roadmap further? Normally, customers are not very keen to share all this in a natural way. Surprisingly, some of them became very talkative in a very natural way, in a very casual way, just over the phone. No meeting, no organization, just by calling and having 20 minutes together. And sometimes we had a better, deeper conversation on sharing our strategies than if we get an organized meeting. So to me, it looks also like people will feel more comfortable to share in a more casual way, quicker, being more efficient, rather than to go for a big meeting where we are 10 around the table, where we are sharing slides, and where at the end of the 2 hours we say, shit, we didn't have time to talk. And I think that's probably these things which are done remotely, which are not costing a lot of time and organization, might help us. And I see that we had some calls in the last days again. We have some which are booked for next week. And I appreciate a lot the fact that people are sharing with us.
So you've really gone from death by PowerPoint to really owning your customer relationship to a much deeper level.
Yes, definitely. In a more simple way, I would say. And these guys are all busy. We are all very busy. And when you say, I need 2 hours in your agenda with 5 guys, then it takes a quarter. And here now it becomes easier, because people are having so many other things to do that when they're happy to share and to have a kind of mirror in the way they're handling things. TraceOne is lucky enough to have some major flagship company in the world. So we have the good practice also. So we are not mentioning the names, but when we hear that someone is doing this and this and it's working well, then of course we are sharing that. And that's the advantage to collaborate with TraceOne.
Fred?
Yeah, I'd like to. I also, first of all, really, I want to say congratulations, because it's really a great experience there. But also, I would like to thank you, because I don't know if you realize that, but what you identified is a real pattern, a real framework to run through such crisis, where point 1 was empathy, point 2 was process adaptability. Point 3 was transformation in business of this process adaptability. Then it turns into real innovation and longer term innovation, and it results in new relations. It's really a real framework that I see here, and I think it's very, very interesting for everyone and for the future.
Yeah, I think that as I said before, I think that these crises, as they are always, of course, very negative and points, and people have suffered about that. But I think that we all realize that we have to be more down to the point, and we are working with very large companies, and the processes and the organization are sometimes a bit heavy, and we don't need to be very big to be heavy, by the way. But in this case, I have the feeling that by working remotely, I was sharing this example with someone recently, that when we say that the meeting is starting at 6, and if at 6:02 there are 2 people missing, we are getting very anxious. We wonder if something happened, or why are... Yeah. And when we do a meeting at the office in presence in the exec room, no one in the room at 6:10, no one finds that very strange. So maybe we are a bit French on that.
French. I was about to say so French.
But I must say that even the French today, because the conference or the meetings are going hours by hours, they want to finish 5 minutes earlier to fetch a coffee and be on time for the next. So
it's good outcome for French people.
We are learning a lot, and probably we are more. The second aspect is that, to your point before, Frederic, when we work remotely, we are alone. And when you're alone, you need to be prepared, because you can't ask your neighbor if there is an answer, or if there is a round table where you have to participate. Yeah. So from my side, I find people more prepared. I find people want to have a call before. or maybe 2 calls before for preparation. And I think that sometimes we were missing that preparation, and then we are a little bit stuck when we are talking to clients or in strategic meetings or steering committees or whatever. So there is a kind of routine in terms of more discipline, I would say, when we are working remotely. And sometimes the technology also helps, because technology at home is working quite well. And when everybody is remote, then it works well. Where it's a little bit more tricky, it's when half is remote, half is at the office. Then, but really, overall, I think that we will probably accelerate the transformation of the way we want it to work. I don't know if I to say thanks to the COVID or due to the COVID. Probably due.
Yeah.
Because it's a nightmare for many people, so we have to be conscious of that.
Yes, but indeed, it's true. It can result in sometimes it has resulted in positive outcomes.
Yeah.
And indeed, there is I question myself about the invention also of a new kind of relation and of language during that period of time. So, which is very much about respect, of course, but I have the impression that collectively we created a new language of business relation during that period of time. I don't know if it will goes on after the crisis, but I really have that impression on my side. And it's not something cultural for European. It's something that I noticed absolutely everywhere with all the relations I've had with our customers in the period.
So that's a very interesting thing, Fred. I mean, apart from obviously the use of the word Zoom everywhere now, what are you thinking in terms of the language that people speak?
I think there is a kind of an aesthetic of business language, which is probably linked to certain industries and types of services or things like that, which have not resisted to the strength of the impact, and that globally in the crisis we reinvented something, because everything was starting by are you okay? Is your family okay? And then when you start by this, you cannot, you cannot switch too quickly to something which is about just the goals, the results, the blah blah, because everything finally is about the crisis at this moment. So I think that we have even invented a new kind of aesthetic at this moment. I'm not so sure it will go on after. But I have really the impression that it's something that is something which is a bit new in the kind of relation. And maybe Christophe, it was something that you were also pointing out with the new relation you were talking about with the C-suite of your customers.
Yeah, yes, definitely, and I fully agree on that. It's I think it's the interaction is more personal, is more human. I was mentioning that, for example, every morning I do a catch up with my executive team, and it's only 15 minutes, but they do the same with their team earlier, so that when we come to that 15 minutes, we do a quick good morning, how are you doing? Which is not happening every day when we are at the office. Everybody steps in his meeting rooms, and then we might not meet the whole day, even though we are on the same floor. And so there is this proximity. There is another aspect. It's also the camera. We work from home. We switch on the camera. Sometimes just 5 minutes to say hello. You're in my home. I am in your home. We are dressed probably a bit more casual, and that makes something. We are coming closer. And I'm saying I'm closer to the team of Trace One remotely than when I'm at the office, because I talk and I see more people in that way, or maybe having a more quality time when I have a one-to-one catch-up 30 minutes with someone. I'm focusing on that because there's no way of being disturbed by anything else. And the quality time and the proximity is also having, in my opinion, an impact. And this is probably something we were a bit losing.
So it's really like agile at high speed in a way for your company. The whole concept of stand-ups and sprints and this kind of thing are really accelerated when you're at a distance. That whole concept, and it creates, you get to the subject matter faster, but you also have time to team build at the same time, which I think is probably a wonderfully transferable skill. But let me ask you, Christophe, one other thing. You talked about coming back to the office, but in pieces. I think you said something about only 1/3 of the people would come back for now. I think a big question for a lot of SaaS companies, since they can do a lot of the work remotely, is the real estate question. What is your take on the real estate? You mentioned when we spoke earlier that maybe people don't need to work in the office; they just come to the office for the small group meetings.
Yeah.
And that sort of creativity intensive moments, and then head back out as a way to preserve productivity, but also safety.
Yeah, absolutely. First, the office that we have is in an open space way, and if we want to keep the rules of distancing and so on, we can't be more than 30-40% of the team if we really want to have the necessary square meter per colleague. So we start for July, August like this until mid of September in France, and we'll see. The first reaction after just one day, when we look at the agendas, is that the meeting rooms are all overbooked. That means people are not willing to go back to the office to sit at their place and work. They want to get at the office because they want to meet and they want to work on a workshop, on a brainstorming, or on a sprint together, because there is this physical interaction, which is of course important. So it shows me that probably we'll need more meeting rooms than standalone open spaces. We have, of course, 3, 4, 5 offices in the world, and of course we were reflecting already on the way we are getting more flexible, agile about that, and we'll definitely go in that direction. But the first thing that we will do, and we are working on it with the HR department, is to look at the working contract to officialize the fact that people can work from home a defined number of days per week, so that it becomes. Right.
I didn't want to get into too much detail. I was just wondering about that. But circling back to what you're doing for your clients in this field, there are things you are able to do for them now. You mentioned new webinars for your clients, web-based FAQs and things like this that are able to help you better service your clients, the things that you hadn't thought of or weren't necessary before the COVID dislocation.
Let's say that we were doing some remote presentations or trainings, but we have accelerated them. And all the meetings like road shows to meet manufacturers across the country could not happen. So we decided to digitize these events. The first one happened yesterday, and there was something like 40 or 45 people who were behind the whole day behind the screen. There is another session tomorrow, then there are some in September and October, and we realize in the chat and in the way we are interacting with them that people feel much more comfortable to do that today. Why? Mainly they say because it's been 2 months we've been forced to work remotely on Zoom, on Skype, on Teams, on whatever. So now we are fully equipped and familiar with that. So it's not an issue anymore. I get an invite, a link, I get in on. And I save the traveling to the office or the traveling to the meeting room, which is also good. So what we did is that there are many physical or presential meetings that we just did remotely because we had no choice, and definitely we'll continue doing. We'll not stop meet physically and go for cocktails, drinks, and brainstorm with our customers, but definitely we'll have a better mix, and we see that we have the power to touch more people, which is something which was evident for us, but not even evident sometimes in the industry where we work. Mm-hmm. And these people were most of the time not equipped also. So now they had to be equipped because they were forced. And I think that some companies have made the financial effort to get equipped. So that is also changing the way we are approaching customers, and I believe that we'll collect the fruits of that in a couple of months.
And so what are some advice, lessons from all this to other SaaS companies, other SaaS entrepreneurs about how they can take advantage of this crisis and turn it into an opportunity?
Something very simple to say, not simple to do, but it's definitely to go to the to the existing customers and the one you know for a while, and just put this posture of, how can I help you? I'm not talking about selling my software. How can I help you? And this, how can I say, support posture to the customers has been really, really great for us. And when we mentioned that nothing was canceled, we just do it remotely, all of a sudden they realize, wow, life continues, business continues. And for me, that was a big message to my team to say, like, that's an issue. The most important is that we are all safe, which is the case. Even as some had the COVID, but they are safe today. But the idea was that business must go on. We must adapt. We must adjust. That's the chance of being also in the SaaS business. We are normally equipped to work in that way, but it's a mindset, and the mindset has to be touched. And as soon as we had the voice of the customers, it became much easier for me and for the leadership team to say to the colleagues, look, we have to adapt because the customers are happy if we can help them here. I think in terms of loyalty, we will win a lot into that. And
so the last question then, this is basically, we're talking about a permanent change in the way you operate and the way you do business, the way you think about things. You think these changes will last
yes.
long beyond the COVID era?
Yes. Yes, absolutely, because that's what people are usually calling the new normal. I think that will keep on. It happened once. Everybody says it could happen twice. So I think that people now understood the way it works, and that these kind of things could happen again. So I think that the impact will last. The way of working and the way of being resilient is going to also last, because we want to be ready. And I think that some companies did not manage to react, or sometimes even didn't manage to survive, because they were not in a position to rebound if something big was happening. I'm not saying I wish that it happens again, but I think that the business is quick. There is a big speed. Innovations, campaigns, collections are going quicker and quicker in every aspect. And that's the company who are agile and flexible will manage to go through all these hurdles, which happened in the past, and which will happen again in a way or another. So to me, it's accelerating the change and the fact that we have to be agile and flexible.
Okay, well, thank you, Christophe Vanackère, the CEO of TraceOne, and thanks also to Fred Lanier, the founder and CEO of Pentalog, and our producer in Brittany, Christelle Lezeau. Are you still in Brittany? She is. Okay, nice place to be right now. I'm Peter Green in New York. Thank you all for being here, and we'll be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. That's 3 p.m. in Paris, if you're lucky to be there, or 6 a.m. in Silicon Valley, if you're awake at that hour. We'll be speaking with François Sylvain, who is the CTO of a company that makes a very cool device called the Coravin. It's a injection needle that keeps your wine fresh, but he's going to talk to us about how the sudden inability to travel to wine stores and show their product created effectively what you could call a growth sprint, and how the company has actually taken advantage of this to grow more than they had before COVID hit. So that's tomorrow, same channel at 9 a.m. New York time. Look forward to seeing you all there, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Christophe. Bye.